Odell. Hi everyone, welcome back to the This Is Me podcast. I'm Karen.
And I'm Ellie, and today we have Laura joining us. Laura is a nursing educator from a West Midlands uni who recently got her PhD and is now starting to supervise others. So Laura, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you would like to start, just tell us a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today, really.
Wow. So you read that and it's like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to say, and then you never know where to start, where to start from or whatever.
Doesn't matter.
I think the key thing I've taken away from kind of nursing is that initially it was not the career that I thought I was going to go into.
Mm-hmm.
I stumbled into nursing and then found my passion and my love. And initially I wanted to be an art teacher.
Oh.
And did my GCSEs in art, did my BTEC, did a degree in art, and really kind of progressed. I thought, what am I going to do with myself? I could go into art therapy, I could go and do something else, but what's my sense of purpose here, and what do I want? Because I loved it as a hobby, and I loved it as a form of expression. There's a real kind of catharticism when you're working with an artistic medium. But it wasn't, something just wasn't fitting, and something didn't sit well. And then I don't know how many nurses you spoke to or will speak to or whatever, but nursing seems to pick you.
Right.
You don't necessarily
I was going to ask how do you stumble into nursing?
Yeah. So essentially, my granddad, who literally lived around the corner at the time, had some symptoms, and we thought, okay, it's probably COPD and whatever else, but he started getting persistent symptoms.
Right.
And we went through the NHS, who are fabulous, and we found out that he got lung cancer. So he got end-stage COPD, stage 4 lung cancer at the point of diagnosis, and something called non-metastatic lymphoma. So we were at a point where we couldn't have chemotherapy, and we were living with a terminal illness, with immediate kind of palliation, and we were coming to terms with that as a family and learning what that looks like for him. So I started doing like his trips to the hospitals, started doing his meetings with his CNSs, his clinical nurse specialists, and we had a lady called Linda Bailey, who is for Mary Curie Hospice, and she was absolutely wonderful. And it's not just how she carried herself, it was the way that she spoke, and the fact that she had this kind of stillness, this inner calm within her that helped her to connect with Grandad, myself, other members of the close family that were looking after him at the time. And that was it. This is what, some people get a calling, and that was entirely it. And then I completely retrained. So I was working at the time to fund uni. Thank God we still had the bursary at the time, because I would not have been able to afford to do nursing at the time. And I was the first person in my family to go and do a degree of any description.
Wow.
So went and did nursing, and that was it. I was hooked, and it didn't matter where you put me. It didn't matter who was looking after. It didn't matter how many hours, whether it was days, whether it was weekends, whether it was nights or whatever. I just did not care, because that was it.
Yeah.
When you say that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
We talk a lot with people on the podcast about purpose and passion. What do you mean that was it? What does that was it mean? I'm just going to have to.
When some people get an epiphany, and all of a sudden all the dots align and you get something. It's like when you're at school and you hate fractions, and you really grapple and you struggle with it, and all of a sudden something clicks and you can do fractions.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. So I had this kind of epiphany of, do you know what? This is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it. And this is the career that I want to stay in.
So, and you don't have to by any means, but what are you in a specialised area? Or I don't know how it works, so my apologies.
That's okay. So when I trained, because the curriculum's changed since then, you would have 2 block placements a year, And you would have no say about where you went. So you would have lots of different exposures within a range of trusts, hopefully, or in the community. And you would learn about nursing as a practical skill. Now, for me, nursing is a passion mixed with a little bit of artistry, mixed with a lot of science.
Yeah.
You know, you can know everything possible about one very niche subject. But actually, if you can't speak to a patient, it's for naught. So you've got to have that balance. And when I kind of went through my nurse training, I did some cardiology, I did some general surgery, I did a year in community. So I went into end of life care. You know, and that was a real kind of moment.
Yeah.
And then went into district nursing, and then went into theatres, and then went into gynecology.
Oh, okay, cool.
As a management placement. And I applied for my first nursing post as a thoracic scrub and recovery nurse.
I only know that from Grey's Anatomy.
So anything to do with lungs, chest, that kind of area. And I got my job while I was still a student. So they held my post for me.
Nice.
Right.
So I'd finished my training, I'd gone into a job, and that was really, really lovely. I then became a nurse educator within a very, very short period of time because in my university there's something called a graduate research teaching assistant role.
Okay.
And this is essentially you have some clinical knowledge, or if you are interested in nursing-based research, you could be eligible to apply for a funded PhD or a funded master's or something similar. And you do 1 day teaching a week, and the rest of the time would be dedicated to a PhD. And when I was training, it almost felt like research nursing was its own island, and nobody really spoke about it. I didn't really know much about the research nurse role or how you got into it, or the true importance of evidence-based nursing and research beyond what we do for our assignments or anything else. And when I was finishing off my end of nurse training, you had to do a dissertation, which was about 6,000 words. And you could choose your own topic. And for me, what I was really interested in is how do you become a nurse and make clinical decisions? How do you justify your actions? And how do you use all of this knowledge and all these little tidbits and this detectiveness when you're presented with a patient? How do you use all these skills to determine if somebody's unwell? How do you build that picture to say, I need some help?
Yeah.
Or actually, this patient isn't very well. This treatment not be working, or do we need to try something else? Or do we need to start something in the initial circumstance? So all of this kind of came together. And I ended up doing a dissertation it was almost like an exploration of does a Muse score or a track and trigger score or something similar detract from your ability to make intuitive judgments? Does it take away from your ability to just look at a patient and say, they are unwell? I'm going to go back to things and see where we go. And basically what I found is that lots of people, especially when they're new to nursing, just look at numbers. They don't look at people. They don't look at all these different trends and that detective kind of role in order to make a full decision, a clinically informed decision which would suit the patient. And I just got really, really into this subject. Now, my personal tutor at the time happened to be the head of School of Nursing and Midwifery. And she was a very interesting person. She said, Laura, what are you going to do next? I said, well, I've got my job. And she's like, well, have you thought about doing a master's or a PhD? I said, no. I didn't know that a nurse could have a PhD,
thanks.
to be perfectly honest. I had no idea about research or anything else, and didn't really know that you could do a PhD without doing a master's first.
Until you just said that this second, I didn't know that either. I thought it was like a progression thing.
I think
in hindsight, I might have done that.
They do it because I was going to say I think they do it because it's in masters introduces you to research methodology and dissertation. And I would say I'm with you, Laura. I think you should that works better. But I knew, Elle, that you could just go straight to that, but you haven't got
had no idea.
Yeah,
That's
I think
mental.
you miss out the research
Yeah,
study and
it
writing.
was a very steep learning curve because you work at different levels. So a normal undergraduate degree is like level 6, then a master's at level 7, and a PhD doctorate level is 8. So I've got all of this stuff going on where I kind of stumbled into nursing and then found my passion and my love, but then was offered an opportunity to apply for a GRTA scheme and complete a PhD. But this was within 6 months of being newly qualified.
Does that mean you? Sorry, I'm going to ask a question. Just it is like ignorance, really. Does that mean you couldn't do any clinical practice, or you could do clinical?
No, I could do bank work. So I could do sporadic.
Because you're still learning, aren't you? Do you know? Like,
yeah. And that was one of my biggest concerns. I didn't want to not be a nurse and not consolidate and lose that contact. You know.
Plus, also, it would help feed into your PhD as well, wouldn't it? As well, like like you're that living person that you're probably writing about.
Yeah. And it's a really interesting thing because I've got this kind of real imposter syndrome of being a newly qualified nurse and trying to get my hat on with that and kind of know where you're going and how to do your job really proficiently and how then to coach other people through that process. While you're trying to learn about research in any way, shape or form and get your head around what a paradigm is and what positionality is and what ontology is and what epistemology is. And the two were just like, and there were real kind of peaks and trough moments, all because ultimately somebody in the family got cancer.
It's like that butterfly effect, isn't it? You know what they say, a butterfly can create chaos. Like you think, oh my god, how does that, how's that ended up? I don't mean ended up because it's just the start of your journey, isn't it? Really? Ended up sounds terrible. Look where you've ended up.
And I think what I think is also like it's really nice as well is you get to keep the art side of it as a passion. And like, because I did, when you were talking about that at the beginning, I thought, I always think that when you do something that you really, really love and are really, really, really passionate about for a job, that can detract away from it. And I think what's really nice is you've got that as your own personal outlet now. And on top of that, you have found what you're really passionate in work about, which I think is, to be honest, probably
unique.
Not something. I think that is quite a unique experience. I don't think many people get to do that.
I also think it's really interesting to go back to your epiphany because it's so, you see such a lot of like blasé nonsense about find your passion. Like find your passion. Sorry, this is my personal opinion, everybody that's listening. What a ridiculous thing to say. I think your passion finds you because you have, so bear with me, you that's why I asked why you said this is it. You didn't go searching for that. You were there because of your granddad and you found it. Like, and I think sometimes we're saying to people, you should, live for the now, live for the passion. And you're like, I must go and find my passion. And like, actually, that's why I asked you, I was really interested. Your passion found you, didn't it? And you didn't know why, and you didn't know how, and you didn't know that was going to be. And it was in the saddest of times. Do you like? Because you weren't actually doing something nice. So I think it's interesting about like, so so you're still doing bank nursing, are you? Or now you finished your PhD, can you go back to nursing? What are you going to do now?
In all honesty,
what are you going to do now?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because I didn't expect to be here. I didn't expect to be here so early into my career. So, and this is kind of like the tricky bit that you've got and nobody prepares you for. Because once you've got a PhD, what do you do with it? And every person's postdoctoral journey is so unique. It's like you have to carve your own way. But then it's like, who do you go to and how do you start and what's useful and what's not useful? And what kind of personality is it going to help you in your journey? Who's going to guide and shape you?
In simple English, Laura, what's your PhD? What does your PhD add value about? Like, and I don't mean that's not critical.
No. That's exactly what it is. It's supposed to be an original contribution to knowledge. So my PhD is looking at approved educational institutions' role, so universities' role in supporting nurses in practice.
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay.
It's very student focused.
I bet that wasn't its title.
No, it is. That's the full title.
Oh,
That's the
nice
full
one.
title. That's
Oh,
why it's
well
wordy.
done. Oh, it's good.
So essentially, we had a change of how we teach undergraduate nursing education, published within 2018 and shaped into curriculums from 2019 onwards. And this is from something called the NMC Future Nurse Standards. So we had the Standards for Practice Education in Nursing beforehand, and now we've got the Future Nurse Standards. And there are real kind of strengths and limitations to all things, including standards of practice.
Yeah.
Now, naturally, we all agree and we abide by standards, and that's what makes nursing such a good profession. It's why you have a code of conduct and everything else. But when you have a change from one system to another, there's naturally going to be a point of transition.
Yeah.
So my PhD really looked about how we can support people in that transition as we are gradually moving consistently forward to the new standards as they were in their infancy and as they were kind of introduced right at the beginning of a pandemic.
Now.
Yeah. Because we put them into curriculums in 2019, but actually we had the pandemic in 2020 and at the end of 2019. So we've got this kind of real change, this real kind of move towards something else in pre-reg nursing education. But we got the COVID pandemic, so we were trying to implement all these different things and talk about it in a different way, to style nursing in a different way. And the two just disconnected completely.
Yeah.
Because you were in ITU for 12 hours and you were looking after people, and initially we didn't really know much about COVID. That research has become, a pinnacle in terms of understanding the experience of working in nursing during COVID. It's just been really interesting to see how it's all fitted together.
Yeah, I bet. So, so that this is me, Laura, pre your PhD and now, what's changed about you? So what's going on with you as Laura?
Really good question.
Thank you.
And I think it depends on the day.
Fair enough,
I think it depends on the day. And it depends on what's going on with you. So my primary role is for education teaching. And we have, as a university, we have quite big cohorts of students.
Yeah.
So it's understanding how they learn and how you can connect with them, particularly with niche subjects like patient handling, basic life support, and research. Because initially, when you talk about evidence-based, with some students, or be that kind of pre or post-grad, people get a little bit reticent and they get a bit nervous because they hear the word research or they hear something about research or education or evidence-based practice, and everybody cringes a little bit inside because they get a bit nervous about the language, the terminology, and what we're talking about and how much evidence is considered robust. And I think I just enjoy the challenge of being able to break down these barriers to make it accessible to everybody, because research doesn't have to be scary. The words in research or the type of research that you do doesn't have to be scary. And actually,
I think there's a whole tranche of academics making it elitist,
inaccessible.
Inaccessible. Thanks, Elle. Yeah, and I think in a world of social media and everybody's an expert. You must have seen that in nursing. Everybody became a vaccine expert because they'd read something on Twitter or TikTok. I think evidence-based stuff is really, critical thinking is really important for people so that they can analyse and think. Research is critical thinking, isn't it? It's getting the evidence and deciding what you want to do with it. And I think we need to teach people that. I think it's that's influencer.
Yeah, I think it's what I find. That's wow. Can't get any words out of my mouth. I think it's interesting that even in a subject like nursing, that you can, and I get that it's just that in the initial feeling of, oh my God, research and I don't know what I'm doing. But in something that is such a it's based in science and the medicine aspect of it, it is it is a little bit surprising to me that people are not put off, because I don't think that that's what you're saying at all, but maybe apprehensive towards it. I don't.
Yeah.
I think people appreciate it when they can see the clinical application, but you have to learn that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the beautiful thing about teaching something like research or evidence-based practice within a university and putting it front and centre of an educational approach. Because actually, when you pick up a research article, you may or may not do this. You read through it and there are going to be set words that perhaps you do or don't understand. You might read a methodology and think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, or no, this doesn't, or how can I come to understand this so I can see how robust it is? What is the quality of this piece of work? How can this help me make decisions for myself? Or how does this add to a body of work I'm presenting or writing about or similar? And that's the beauty of it. That's the artistry, because you can see what people are thinking. You can see how people connect or how they grapple or how
It's
they
like a
struggle with
jigsaw
something.
for me. It like builds your picture up, doesn't it?
Massively.
Yeah.
And you've got to have time and investment in those things. And it's
so. What are you currently? You finished your PhD, amazing. Yeah. What are you? Where are you? What are you actually doing now? Are you still
teaching.
doing that role, or
so I'm still in my same role. I'm still
Awesome.
teaching, and I still love it. You know, it's
Good.
a blessing and a privilege. You know, and it's nice to see the penny drop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Which is great.
So
and, you know, being able to do bank work occasionally helps.
Where's your imposter syndrome now, then, that you spoke about earlier?
I still have imposter syndrome, massively.
I was say, what's it about now?
You never feel as though you know enough. And it's at that point you feel comfortable in your own skin. And you think, oh, okay, I can do this. Or I can see a more strategic picture. Or I can talk about this piece of research or this type of methodology more confidently than I did beforehand. Or I can guide somebody through an experience. Perhaps they're struggling with an ethics application, or perhaps they're just finding their way through the journey. And there are real kind of high and low points with doing a PhD. Some people describe it as trawling through treacle during parts that they really struggle to grapple with. And there are points where you're just living for that kind of discovery and that kind of moment of, that's it.
I know what
or
I'm
yes,
talking
I've proven
about,
something. Or you have that kind of confidence within you, and you've built up such a knowledge in a very kind of niche area. It's a really lovely place to be able to get to and say, I understand this teeny topic better than anybody else because I've lived this period of time and I've done this piece of research and I've committed so much energy to it. And I'm going to share that with others in the hopes that they will have the same journey and they will go through the highs and the lows and know they're not alone. You know, social isolation is a big problem with postgraduate research and PhDs. It's in a lot of literature.
So what does that sort of what does the research say about that, and what is sort of coming out from that about the social isolation aspect of it?
Doing PhD can be lonely work, and that might be because you might be the only person in your field, in your area, in your group of friends doing a PhD. And you have to really commit to a subject, which is why it's usually a topic that you are invested in. You know, you have that, what I call professional curiosity. You have that kind of inner nosiness that just wants to know more, and you have to satisfy it. Now, if you didn't have that kind of passion for what you're doing your PhD, you'd never get to the end.
Yeah.
Because it's that passion, that curiosity that is your golden thread and it takes you through the process. I think without that, it's really hard to kind of celebrate your wins, consolidate on what you still need to learn, and readdress kind of the low points. And that kind of roller coaster that you feel as though you're the only person going through is what causes that sense of isolation. That's what comes through within the research. So
we do a lot about mental toughness in our work, which is dealing with challenges, stresses and pressures. Like, how did you do that? Because I think that would be really interesting, because I think that we've talked a lot, haven't we, on the podcast, about social isolation in many areas. What sort of things did you do to help you be mentally tough about this? What I know it doesn't work for everybody, but what worked for you, to get you through this?
I have to say family, because my family was so patient and they were so good, and they didn't necessarily know what I was talking about, but the fact that they were there and they were willing to listen to me, like go, I'm having a meltdown in various different forms, or I've reached this brick wall, I can't get past it, and it's like, Laura, when was the last time you actually stopped? When was the last time that you just took a step back or read something for pleasure as opposed to academic necessity?
Yeah.
You know, when was the last time you just went out for a walk in your free time and didn't just carry on? Because I found, particularly when I was doing my research at home due to COVID, the computer was in my living room.
Yeah.
There was no clear separation between work and home. And it kind of bled into one, where you find you'd be working at kind of 9, 10 o'clock at night on something that could have waited until the next day.
Yeah.
And you didn't really have that separation. And that at that point, because I just wanted to commit to something and really see it shaping, I didn't have the discipline to stop myself at a reasonable hour always. Yeah. So that kind of prompt from family and friends to say, you need to have a rest now, was essential. I think going in and doing work in the hospitals does break up your routine, but also ensures that you are still safe, you are clinically relevant, and that you can still connect with students as they are currently learning in those environments.
Did you? I presume you had to work through COVID. Well? Sorry, Elle. Sorry, go on. I was going to. Did you work through COVID?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Do you think it helps as well that you because you have just come out of like the academic environment, you like, I think it must be useful for them as well that they understand that you actually have really recently been through exactly the same thing that they've been through. Do you find that helps as well?
Yeah, I think so. And when you're talking to students and they realise that you're studying as well, and there's kind of like a shared understanding of, okay, everybody's got to meet deadlines, everybody's got something that they need to learn, or a way of learning, or a way of approaching something. I think that could be really useful because it helps you to build relationships between you and your students, or you and your peers, or whatever. And that also kind of fosters this kind of positive research culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it helps to detract from that social isolation and that kind of feeling of, oh, this is my project, I can't show anybody. Yeah, I'm worried about people stealing my work or something similar. It's a really different thing. It's a really different experience. And going through, if you have enough time and if you read enough, the PhD knowledge will come. Yeah. I think what I wasn't prepared for was how much trust I had to have in my supervisors and how much I relied on the connections with them to help me through the process and to help make sense of my experience and to remind me that I wasn't on my own, because everybody that goes through a PhD has a similar experience. You know, and it's that revisiting of the golden thread.
How did you work on that then? Because my sister is doing a PhD at the minute, and not to go too much into it because she hasn't consented for me to have this conversation on the internet, but I'm going to do it anyway. She really got along well with her supervisor at first, and then it took a real nosedive, and I think that's when she started to lose the plot with it, because and she's, I was saying, we were talking before we came on here, that she's, you know, she's almost at the end now, and you can see how much she just wants it to be over, and it's not even like I can't wait to have done this and completed this. It's I just can't wait for this to stop. And I think they are at a place now where their relationship is, I think it's okay. It's civil enough.
I think it's
functional.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's functional is a good way to describe it. But I don't know. I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like. Like how did you have to work on trust, or did you maybe get a bit lucky with who you got? Like, how was that for you?
Well, something that I haven't shared at this point in time was that while I was going through my PhD, I actually sought a diagnosis for ASD, autistic spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
And I was diagnosed at the age of 32. in the middle of a pandemic while doing a PhD.
Okay.
So I was learning so much more about myself and the way that I was thinking and the way I was processing information while I was doing.
Yeah, that's hard.
And once I kind of got that, and little bits came in and little things that made sense of, oh, this is why I see this bit differently, or this is why I don't understand this, or this is why I struggle with this social cue or this social cue or similar. That made supervision a lot easier.
How did you like diagnose yourself that you needed to have a diagnosis? Sorry if that's a really strange question. Because at 32 to suddenly think, how did that happen? Because I think that's really useful for listeners to hear, because sometimes we know ourselves better than anybody. I'm really interested in intuition, but sometimes we don't listen to our intuition. So how did that come about? Because I think that might be interesting for people listening to hear, if you don't mind sharing it.
Not at all. I'm very open about it, and I've written about it in my PhD, because it's part of my positionality, it's part of how I've situated my research and how I've come to form my conclusions. I initially was screened for dyslexia, and that didn't fit for me at all. It wasn't what I was struggling with. But then I had a conversation with the enablement team, so the people that were assessing for, and they said, have you thought about having something called an AQ50? An AQ50 is the initial screening tool for autism. Now, I don't know if that's adult with autism or if it's autism in general. I don't really know much about the process, apart from the fact that I've gone through it. And there are 50 questions, and they give you a score at the end. They're scored quite highly. Likely to have ASD or Asperger's, which is a particular diagnosis within an umbrella of autism diagnoses. And that prompted me to go and have a private diagnosis and to learn a bit more about myself. Yeah. And lo and behold, there it was.
Were you apprehensive at that time, or sorry, go on, Ellen. Me and Ellie are so curious.
I was just going to say, did you find, like, when you then had that diagnosis, how did you cope with that? I guess my question is like, was it, did you feel relief? Was it a bit like,
that's exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah, because I think anyway, shut up. I'm going to let you answer the question.
Well, it's a really good question.
I think there was, because it explained certain things about myself and how I understood the world and how I connected with people, and that's really good. And it makes it so much easier. And the fact it's okay to need to step away from things, or what I call de-people. I need to shut the door. I need to be away from everybody else. I just need time to declog my mental fog.
Yeah, de-people.
And that's how it works. And by having the diagnosis and making greater sense of myself, I became more confident to say, absolutely not, this is too much, or brilliant. I can't work in this way. And it gave me that kind of sense of autonomy, because I knew there was something, I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And now I speak about it freely. So every time I do a practical session, we do a safety briefing and we talk about neurodiversity. So it's like, okay, if you have a particular way of learning or a particular way of understanding, if you would like me to break something down, if you want slides at the end, if you would like me to draw a picture as I explain, if you want me to do something differently, I'm happy to do that, in order to make this session as inclusive as possible. And I also share my own diagnosis in every single session. So the students are prepared for how my presentations will influence my teaching style. And how that might be seen by them. So, for instance, for me, I will either make lots of eye contact or none at all.
Yeah.
I find it really difficult to regulate eye contact, and I know that's a flaw.
Well, it's not a flaw. It's not a flaw.
It's something your students need to understand, because then they're not. So I've worked in learning most of all of my career, and I think people really underestimate whether it's a neurodivergent label or whether it's the way you learn. That actually we all interpret things. Everybody, and they'll go, "Oh, Karen's not looking at me," or "Oh, Ellie's not looking at me," or "Karen's got it right." So I think it's really important that people are honest and say, "I'm not crossing my arms because I'm really angry." Do you know, like I'm not looking at you because I don't like you. I think we have to be more. Vulnerability for me is really important in today's age, and and it isn't a flaw. It's you saying to them, "This is who I am," and it's not only. But and I think we have to stop all this stuff about, you know, oh, they crossed their arms or they didn't look at me, or that's who we are. But I think you're absolutely right, Laura. Telling people means you're giving people the chance not to judge. I think it's amazing that you tell them. I really do.
I want the students to be confident in their way of working as well, because lots of people don't diagnose, and while it is entirely their own choice to disclose or not, actually, if I'm aware, I can make adaptations. I can change
it doesn't
something.
even have to be a diagnosis. It can just be, I like you to tell me. I like you to draw it. I think it's, you give people permission to be them, and I think that's great, really great, and more people should do it.
It's useful because they get more from they get more from the session, especially if it's something that's not necessarily the juiciest subject or something that is difficult to maintain concentration, or something that students don't initially get, and they have to kind of engage just a little bit more in order to get the best out of the session possible. And I often say, you know, when I make eye contact with people, it's not, I don't want it to be seen as a mark of disrespect, because I'm thinking about other cultures. I'm thinking about how some people will take direct eye contact as almost like a challenge, or as a sign of confrontation, or a sign of aggression, or a sign that I am singling you out of everybody in the room. And that's really off-putting as a learner. So actually, this is why I do something. I do try and vary. Please bear with me. It is not it's not meant to be a bad thing or a cliche thing. It's just we all learn differently. I want you to get the best out of me, and out of whatever I teach. So please come and speak to me if you learn differently as well.
Yeah. You've talked about what you love about your job. What are some of because I can only imagine that every year having a fresh bunch of new students is quite challenging. God bless them all. What are some of the challenging things about your job, and how have you learned to sort of deal with those?
I think boundaries are a big thing. Right. I think there has to be a professional boundary. And there's a difference between being able to talk to students on their level and being a friend. And I think being more confident to set those boundaries, again, so the student gets the best out of you, but also so that all students get an equitable experience. It's a hard thing to manage, because you want all students to like you. You want to develop that relationship with everybody. You want to get on with everybody.
Yeah.
And being able to just maintain that kind of friendly but professional, consistent manner is really important.
Well, how have you learned to do that, Laura? Because that's something that a lot of women that we talk to really struggle with, because most women intuitively want to be not necessarily liked, but that's, we want nice atmospheres. We don't want conflict, so all this stuff, women are too kind. It isn't always about that, is it? It's about creating a safe environment. So how have you learned to do that? Other than not looking at people.
I've had some really good mentors, and I've gone out of my way to work with senior members of the team and watch how they do it, and then cherry pick from different people. Okay, what naturally suits me, what doesn't suit me, or what have students responded to overall really well. And sometimes it's just taking a moment, almost like sitting there with a cup of tea and having a think.
And de-peopling, which is now going to be my new mantra.
I love de-peopling. Is brilliant.
We need to put that in the diary, Karen. De-peopling.
De-people.
So boundaries is one. What's another big challenge that you've had? Do you know, like when you with your role?
I think it's just growing into the role and making it what you want it to be. Every academic's different, every student's different, and everybody brings something really unique, really beautiful to the role. And it's just finding that ability to bring the best out of everybody. So if you're in a small team, bringing the best out of all of your team.
Yeah.
And making sure that everybody's comfortable in whatever you're doing and safe.
Yeah. Do you
Be
take
able
a
to
lot of
continue
responsibility
developing
on,
that.
Laura? Listening to you, I don't know what you think, Elle. I think you have a big responsibility for making, and which I think is really amazing. But with that comes the shadow side of it, doesn't it? Which is taking the responsibility on for all those students is quite a burden for you as the
I think
teacher,
it's
isn't it?
it's a shared collective responsibility. So as one academic in a body, within a larger institution, there's always somebody else to go to.
Yeah.
So I don't feel as though I have that huge amount of responsibility. I think I'm responsible for my own actions.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
that's really good.
all of my conduct should, be to reflect the university in a positive way, or clinical practice in a positive way. And I think every academic just wants to be good at what they do and to inspire somebody.
Yeah, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And to only, to give people that opportunity and that impetus to be inspired.
That's lovely.
Because anybody can go and read a textbook and learn something, but to sit there in a lecture theatre and to be engaged and to listen to something and to see somebody investing, something passionately and connect all those dots for you and get that light bulb moment is priceless.
Yeah, it's amazing. What's your favourite lecture to teach?
Oh, that's a hard question. That's a really hard question. And again, depends
You get up in the morning and you
today.
think, "Yay, I've got this today." Do you know, or
I do that with all my sessions. Cause
I know you do, but what's your favourite?
There's a difference between how do I put this? So I predominantly teach skills, and the main area that I teach is posture, movement, handling. So patient handling, how do you get somebody out of bed? How do you toilet somebody with dignity?
Well, it's so
How
interesting.
do you hoist people?
My youngest is doing her physiotherapy masters, and she's just gone on to. Wait, again, I'm talking without her permission, so me and Ellie are going to be in big trouble. But she came home the other day, and she's doing a placement, and it's knees, hips, which is great for people. But she was on a ward where is it called an elective when you come in, and then they put her onto trauma, which is, and she came back to me. She went, I wasn't shown how to lift people up, and I wasn't shown how to put people on the pans, and she was terrified.
All right.
Yeah, because she did, to your point, she didn't have a clue. And I said, you need to go back and say. And she did. But to your point, it's really important, isn't it? Because, Isabel's not the biggest of people. But yeah, it's really interesting that's what you like to teach.
Yeah, love it. And I've invested in this subject for years. And I've got some papers and some conferences and bits and pieces.
Well, I might point it your way.
And I think the interesting thing that I love is, again, it's not conventionally an engaging subject. Some people really, really struggle with statutory subjects like patient handling or mandatory subjects like basic life support, because in some ways it can be very inaccessible because it's very kind of focused on the law and legislation, and it's not necessarily related to clinical teaching if it's taught badly. Whereas sometimes when I teach, I can't help but I can't not make it clinical. And you invest so much in the individual kind of like roles, and you've got to understand what they struggle with. So you give advice, guidance, support, education around what the literature says, this curiosity, and you put it into a session that makes it relevant to their specialism.
Yeah.
So if
So
you're talking
live,
to nurse,
doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It makes it practical.
That's awesome.
Put your hand on the hip and put your hand on the shoulder and move somebody out of a chair isn't going to work for everybody. But it's the nuances of how each person moves and what their pattern of movement's like, what their gait's like, what their balance is like, how these things change throughout the day, what's at your disposal to help you help yourself and maintain independence and mobility for these people so they don't become less able when they come home.
That's awesome. I'm there
what
with you.
was it about that element of it that interested you? Because I think, like you say, a lot of people like that could be taught badly. Do you know what I mean? Because people, it's a box that you've got to sit down today. This is the legislation on why you've got to do this, but you do seem like you're genuinely interested. What was it about it that interested you?
When you look at how a toddler moves,
Mm-hmm.
they move completely uniquely. So when they pick a box up, they don't look at the floor. They almost like squat to pick something up, and they have perfect posture.
Oh.
Because otherwise they fall over.
Okay.
Right.
And what I'm really interested in, what changes between when you have perfect posture and how we go to slumping forward in a chair and putting your feet up and sitting on your feet and all these different things.
Yeah.
And then how that changes to what you do in nursing. So how do you roll a patient in bed? How do you attend to somebody's personal hygiene needs? How do you use a piece of equipment? And all of these things kind of matter because actually when you look at the statistics, nurses and other healthcare professionals are hurting themselves.
Yeah.
And they're hurting
They
themselves
must be.
caring for other
they
people.
must be.
You know,
Yeah.
and the thing is, nobody lives to work. We work to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't live to be a CEO of WH Smiths or whatever. We don't live to fulfill a role. That the role is not entirely us. We fulfill a role and we bring something unique to the table. And how you fulfill that role will depend on lots of different things to do with you and what you value and what you don't value, whatever. And then how you perform a proficiency or a skill or whatever it is that you're doing. And the beauty about patient handling is the fact that you get to see the individual for who they are, and you get to understand, you get to be the detective and look at how they move and what their preferences is. You get to ask all of those different questions in order to inform somebody's care and then hopefully help them to maintain or improve. And, you know, to do these things, not just technically accurately, but with grace and dignity and compassion, really make a difference.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've noticed throughout this whole conversation is you can tell how deeply you care about the individual in whichever environment that's in, whether that's patients or whether that's the students. Every single thing that you've said so far has come down to, and what is that doing for the individual person, which I think is just really, I think that's incredible.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's such a amazing intent with everything you do.
Yeah. And it just,
it's amazing.
I don't even think that like you're trying to put that out there. I think it's so innate in you that it just that's the driving sort of thing. That's it's
like
really
listening
lovely.
to somebody who has compassion as a strength, not as a sideline
like
or a side.
At the core. Like there's compassion. There's compassion at your core, Laura. I feel.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. You don't talk about compassion, but compassion oozes out of you.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
And you don't. I think people do care. They are compassionate. I'm not saying that they're not, but you can see it's a not a thought process, but it's like it's not being done subconsciously, whereas I don't even know whether you've consciously thought about that at any point throughout speaking to you. It's there. Like Karen said, it oozes. Yeah,
it's lovely. I think because like I see so much, like I'm a cynic, I'm older than you two, and I see that people pick things that are the new things, and compassion is like a word that's bandied about by everybody. It's like I said earlier about you need your passion. Compassion isn't a thing you find; it's who you are. It's what you do. It's your, and I think that's you. Like, and I think it's amazing how you've taken that into your research, because fundamentally the research isn't about the research. Yours is about making a difference to somebody, which I think is just pretty impressive, Laura, for somebody so young.
It's an interesting place to be, and I think the one kind of difficulty, and I think the one thing that I don't know if this is all PhD students, it'd be really interesting to find out, or not.
Good luck.
Is it's a really interesting thing. Is how many people are prepared for that next step? How many people have already got this kind of intent and this purpose to say, I did not mean to be here at all.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to go into nursing. It found me and I've developed. I didn't mean to go and do a PhD.
Yeah.
I was
I think it's
given
an
an
interesting
opportunity by
question.
somebody.
I think that's a great question for you to start doing some research. My two pennies on is it either finds you or if you're in academia, it's almost like in
It's
business,
like the
you have a career
trajectory.
pathway. Yeah. In academia, I think it's the next thing. And I think that's as equally as hard to deal with as you finding it and now wondering what to do with it. So I think it's a great question, but I think there's a couple of different answers to it, you know.
Yeah.
But put that on your list of things to research.
Yes, I think it's going to have to go on the list.
Yeah, I'd love to know how many things are on the list, and I bet I hope they come to
grows
fruition.
and it changes on a day-to-day basis. I really like this. This is going to be really
You've
interesting.
sort of met your 30-year-old soulmate here who's like desperate to do something about intuition and coaching. So
Fabulous.
Conscious of time, so what's next for you in the next 6 months, and what's on your sort of things that you want to achieve or hopes that you've got, or just anything generally?
I have no idea.
Yeah, just to carry on enjoying what you're doing.
Just to enjoy and to consolidate. I think you spend so much time studying. Once you get it, you have this kind of stillness, which is really hard to get used to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like the first time that you solidly read a book for pleasure after you finished. It's like, oh, I should be doing something else with my time. I feel really guilty that I'm not studying or I'm not doing something. And it's that gradual return to some semblance of normality.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just enjoying that kind of quiet peace.
Yeah.
A quiet
That's
inner
amazing.
peace, because I've achieved more than I ever expected to.
Yeah.
At one point I was working in a shop, a high street retailer, and I thought that was going to be it. And then I went into, hospitality and did that for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, I was doing an art degree in view of being an art teacher. Wasn't particularly good at it, but I enjoyed it, and that's all that mattered at the time.
Yeah.
Being, how old would I have been? Less than 20, and not really knowing what I wanted to do as a career. It just seemed like something that would gradually evolve because I was interested in a subject.
Into something, yeah.
And as I say, this one thing that lots of people go through, I mean, 1 in 2 people are diagnosed with some form of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It's so prevalent these days. This one thing that is, it happens to people indiscriminate of age, indiscriminate of who you are. And it's a life-changing moment, not just for that person, but for their family network, for people that know and love them and whatever. And how something like that can be a catalyst for something so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
I think that's also something that I'm really enjoying. It's that kind of growth and development of something that is much bigger than you, and being part of something that collectively means so much to people.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people have mixed things to say about the NHS, but the NHS is free at the point of delivery.
Oh, no,
for so many people, and so many people benefit from it.
It saved my life, but that's not for today's podcast.
Oh wow!
It absolutely has got its flaws. It's my personal opinion that it is the single greatest thing we have in this country. And we should not perfect by any means, but we should protect it with all our might. Exactly, I think it's the single greatest thing we've got in this country.
And you can't have something that's so big and so public facing and does so much without problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's about how we as individuals shape that collective workforce and that culture and that passion, that drive for patient care and the future. It's almost like you're looking back on what you had as a learner to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Which is really lovely.
Yeah, I think it's, and I think that's what's really but I think it's really good as well. Like, it's really nice that you do get with what you're doing now. You do get to influence that. You're actively making a difference in it, which is that must feel great. Do you know what I mean? But,
no, you don't think about it in that way. You just going and doing what you love. That's not. I don't wake up and say, I'm going to make a difference today, or I am going to do this today. It doesn't work in that way. And I think if you start doing that perhaps that's where poor intentions come in. It changes like the nature of why you do something, or why you're committing something, or why you value something. You know, to just go out, have a career that you love, and knowing it's okay to stumble into something and make it your own is not a bad thing. You know, and I think you can find that at any age. I don't think it's specific to being young and 18 and knowing exactly what you want to do from school. I don't think it's when you're my age, and if you want to do career change and you've got the capability, go and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got to be for the right reasons, and it's got to be because it speaks to you, and you can't do it for anybody else. Do it for you.
Yeah.
No, that's
what
brilliant.
I would say is it's amazing you shared that story, because in a lot of the worlds we work in, that is not the case. And I would say hold on to that and hold on to it, and just be really proud of what you've got, because I think if you listen to the other podcasts and that, and I think that's what Ellie and I want to do, connect people in different worlds, because there's a lot of people who are working in companies where people's agendas are not wholly with integrity. And on that point, I should shut up. But I think it's amazing that you've come on. We really want to share with people's different views. Do you know? And I think thank you so much.
And thanks for giving up your lunch break for us. Because Laura is currently
it's been amazing.
in work. Genuinely, thank you for giving up your time, because I've really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you a lot for that.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
Just got one question, haven't you?
Oh my God, yeah, I nearly didn't do it. I nearly said goodbye. I tell you what, I'm losing the plot today. Honest to God, that was it. I was off to go. See you later.
I think you were so enthralled. I didn't dare ask it, because it's like I thought I'm going to ask the wrong question. So
no, you're not. I'm sorry. I've lost the plot today, guys. Right? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Last and final question. If you had to pick a song to be the theme song for your life, whether that's overall or just in a specific moment, what song would it be?
I had to really think about this. I went through all vinyl, and I went through so much music to be able to pick this song. It would be Green Day, Time of Your Life.
Great.
And it's purely because of the first paragraph.
It's a brilliant song. I was lucky enough to finally get to see them a couple of years ago.
Amazing.
What a band. They were great. Amazing.
They are timeless. They've gone through so many decades. They've got so many albums, and it's just, it's stunning. But that first paragraph, it's just like,
brilliant.